All right, let's get started.
Okay. I wanted to talk about how we got to where we're at now in this country. And I need to back up clear down to the founding of the country just briefly.
Okay.
And make a few quick comments. If we come to break, you can just let me know and have these people turn on their recorders, because this is the last time we're going to talk about this on the air, probably.
Okay, you got about 3 minutes, and please do not start out once upon a time.
Okay, Okay. What happened was the founding fathers created the country.
Yeah.
The states, the sovereign states.
Right.
Okay? And the sovereign states were called
Confederation.
California Republic, Nevada State.
They weren't the original states, Dave.
They were, yes.
No, they weren't the original states.
All of them were called, the words I'm using now, that's what they were called when they were created.
Well,
Alabama State,
okay.
Virginia State,
yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
New Hampshire.
They weren't called State of Virginia. They weren't called State of Alabama. They were called Virginia State.
Okay, but the 13 colonies were the first.
Right, but they weren't. My point is, I'm telling you the way they were named initially.
Okay.
It would have been California Republic or Texas Republic or Texas State.
Right.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, these states were sovereign states, and they were judicial in nature.
Right.
And if a person wanted to become a citizen of, say, the California Republic, he would apply for citizenship with the California Republic. California Republic would grant California citizenship. There was no thing called United States citizen.
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
That's the point I was trying to get at. Now, what ended up happening was the founding fathers were upset. If you read the Declaration of Independence, most of your listeners have read it, there's a statement in there that says, these dang British have come into this country and brought martial military law onto the land. And they were upset about it. They did not like military law, because under military law you have no rights. You have no judicial rights. That's the Bill of Rights.
Yeah.
And you're guilty till proven innocent. You with me?
I'm with you.
And so they wanted no part, absolutely no part of anything that would give a queen or a dictator the power to create Nazi Germany, so to speak. So we had no federal government. When the Founding Fathers created the 13 colonies, there was absolutely no federal jurisdiction, no federal government. There was no feds, okay?
Right. And by the way, I've got the Constitution, and I'm digging it up because I want to find that quote. So
you can quote it. Look it up as I keep talking then.
Yeah.
So what happened then was we had a problem. We needed a federal government to do treaties and to defend the borders against foreign enemies.
Mm-hmm.
So the Founding Fathers got together and they said, look, we need a federal jurisdiction. I know you guys hate it. I know you don't like what happened in the past with the British and their maritime law and their federales, but we need a branch representing all the states which are judicial that has the power of the federal maritime law to handle treaties. Well, they agreed to create 10 square miles known as the District of Columbia to only put federal jurisdiction or military law in the 10 square miles. Now, one of the Founding Fathers said, well, what do we do if these feds crawl out of their 10 square miles and come out here and try to use this British rule on us again?
Yeah.
And so it was proposed that they would pass the 7th Amendment to keep the British in place. Not the British, but I mean the military law in the 10 square miles.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll quote the 7th. In any controversy which exceeds $20, the right of a common law jury shall be preserved.
And on that, I'm going to hold you. Stay right there on the 7th Amendment.
Okay.
Well, I remind everyone, my name is Lou Epton. Our guest this evening, Dave Hinkson. We're going to be talking Constitution. All right, it's 27 minutes before the hour. My name is Lou Epton. Our guest is Dave Hinkson. We're here on the AM 840 KXNT. We're talking about one of the greatest documents of all times, even though it was only an amendment to the Articles of Confederation. No, we're talking about the Declaration of Independence. I was going to say the Constitution, but I'm looking at the Declaration of Independence, and we've gotten up to the 7th Amendment of the Constitution. So let's go forward from there then, Dave.
Am I on the air still? Hello?
I think so. Yeah,
okay.
Hello, Dave. Is that you, Dave?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Earth to Dave.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah, hello?
We're here, Dave. Let's go.
You're just hassling me.
I know.
I'm sorry.
Well, this reminds me, by the way, I had a very interesting conversation with Jack and Joyce Wingler, a friend of theirs up in Canada, who was extremely ill. I mean, very ill. Started taking some of your silver. and went to the doctor, and she was due to go on dialysis, and she doesn't have to go on dialysis, and the doctor said, I don't know what the hell it is you're doing, but keep doing it. You're doing very well.
Speaking of strange stories, I had one happen Friday.
Okay.
Just off the subject a little bit. My lady drank a bunch of that copper water.
Yeah.
And she got dizzy and fell down, and they called an ambulance for her, took her to the hospital. She thought she'd been poisoned with the copper, right? They couldn't find anything wrong with her. They sent her home, and here's what happened. She had hookworms in her ear canals.
Oh, boy.
Guess what? She was wearing hearing aids. Guess what?
She doesn't need them anymore.
Right.
Do you know what happened to me when I was drinking copper?
What?
I started looking like Abraham Lincoln.
That's not.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's nothing to be proud of.
Kevin is nodding his head like, he's sick tonight. I knew it was going to happen. He
back to
cracked.
Okay. You mentioned the Articles of Confederation, so I would like to make a point.
Okay.
The United States Constitution that we're quoting from, the 10 plus the 10 there originally.
Yeah.
Those were an amendment or an addendum added on to the Articles of Confederation.
Very few people are really aware of that, and that's unfortunate.
And the Articles of Confederation are still the law of this land, never canceled. And if you read Article 6 of the United States Constitution, it states that any debt or previous engagement, that means contracts, entered into but not specifically counseled or in conflict with this Constitution is still binding. Now, the Articles of Confederation created the states west of the Ohio Valley and is still the law of this land. And common law is specifically defined in the Articles of Confederation. I'd like to add this.
Good.
Now, back to what we were saying.
Right. Now, let's get back to the Seventh Amendment.
Okay. When they created the 10 square miles, that's when they wrote the Constitution, known as the U.S. Constitution. And it was commercial, and it pertained to feds. The Constitution, the first 10 amendments, was basically what the feds were allowed to do. It was their, basically, the fence that holds them back or tells them what they're allowed to do. The 10 amendments was basically put there to protect us from those feds. And that's why the 7th Amendment was put into place, is to make sure they don't leave their 10 square miles.
Now, wait, I think that is such a strong and such an important point. I'd like to repeat it loud and clear. These amendments were put in place to protect us from Washington, D.C.
Right.
That's interesting.
So the 7th Amendment was designed to make sure the feds did not leave their 10 square miles, and so that they would do what they're supposed to do and not jump the fence, come into our yards, and pick on citizens who were known as judicial citizens. Common law is also known as judicial law.
Right.
And judicial law is the law of the land, and maritime law is the law of the sea. And the sea law was only supposed to go 10 square miles. In England, for instance, the maritime wall, or the mile square, whatever you want to call it, is 1 mile square, not 10 miles square. They're the exact same setup. And for instance, the Queen of England is not allowed any jurisdiction in that mile. Most Americans don't know that we basically have a mirror image of what they have in England, with the mile square, the 10 square miles, and this kind of thing.
Well, don't feel bad. Most Americans don't understand that we're still controlled by European puppeteers.
Well, let's move further in that direction then. Okay. So basically, we now have the sovereign states, which are judicial. Okay?
Yeah.
And we have 10 square miles with their separate constitution as an amendment or addendum to the Articles of Confederation.
Yeah.
Now, the feds were hungry for more power. Okay? And so what they wanted to do was they wanted to basically come out of their 10 square miles and do their thing down here. Okay? And this is what caused the Civil War. Because, Abe Lincoln, he represented the Queen of England. And to prove that, he was a founder of the Republican Party, which was called the Whigs, because they represented the British Crown.
Yeah.
Now, the North, or the South, I mean, sided with the French Freemasons and the country called France. Okay?
Okay.
And after we had the Revolution and threw the British out of here, the French Freemasons gave us the Statue of Liberty. It's a French Masonic symbol, also known as the Colossus of Rhodes. If you look up in any encyclopedia under Colossus, you'll find it in its exact dimensions, and it'll tell you it's for basically sun god worshiping.
The Statue of Liberty?
Huh?
The Statue of Liberty?
Yes, sir.
Is a sun god idol?
Look under Colossus. I'm not going to say it again. Look it up. Colossus of Rhodes.
Now, what will I find?
You'll find a picture of the Statue of Liberty. It'll tell you it's French Masonic of Rhodes.
Now, what will I find?
You'll find a picture of the Statue of Liberty. It'll tell you it's French Masonic statute. It represents Masons. And
Kevin, look that up.
look it up. I'm challenging all the listeners to look it up.
Okay. Colossus of Rhodes.
Right.
C-O-L-L.
How do you spell Colossus? C-O-L-L. I've got Ben Zavinia with me. He's thinking. Anyway, C-O-L will get you in the right area. If you thumb through it, you'll find it. It's Colossus of Rhodes.
Yeah, don't ask Ben to spell anything. He can't even spell his name.
You can't even spell your name.
Go ahead.
He's being nice. Okay. Anyway, we keep getting off track, but I wanted everybody to understand what originally happened. Now, here's the problem. When the Civil War started, okay, the South never showed up.
What do you mean never showed up?
Congress never came. It never convened.
Then
the Senate didn't convene.
Congress didn't show up.
None of them showed up.
Right.
Okay? Now, we operate under what's called the Roberts Rules of Procedure.
Yeah.
And under the Roberts Rules of Procedure, if you don't have the next meeting, okay, you don't convene, a thing called sine die kicks in. S-E-N-I-D-I-E, I guess. It basically means it died.
Yeah.
Now, that's when the Republic died. At that point, we were no longer a republic. Now, at the end of the Civil War, they could have reinstated the republic, but they didn't. Now, put yourself in Abe Lincoln's shoes. He's standing there. They're in the middle of this war, okay? And he decided that he wanted to make government move forward under a power called the, what was the power, Ben? Boy, this is such a big story. It was the power of necessity. Under common law necessity. I'll get it right.
Okay.
Common law is the most powerful form of law. And under common law necessity, that means if there's not a government in place, you can create a temporary emergency government. So Abe Lincoln, what he did was he took the three departments of government, judicial, executive, and legislative. Notice I use the word department. Department. I want people to pay attention there. He convenes those three departments underneath himself, making them branches. And to this day, all of the government is branches underneath the executive branch.
Now, prior to that,
they were departments. And this is why on the dollar bill you have the pyramid with the little light coming out of it. That represents the power of masonry. You with me?
Okay.
And the eagles holding the branches, that represents branches of government under the executive power controlled by the word Columbia, like District of Columbia, means ruled by Masons. Look up the word Columbia in your encyclopedia.
And what will I find?
Well, you'll find that it's basically, it has meanings, Masonic meanings.
We've got a very small, inexpensive dictionary. We couldn't find the Colossus.
Well, it's in the encyclopedia, this stuff. And I got Ben here helping me. So anyway, I'm giving you the feedback of, so all of the branches now are branches. And you went to elementary school, they told you you had three branches of government.
Right.
A branch is something underneath something else. Now, prior to the Civil War, you had departments.
Okay.
Okay. When they became branches, that's when it became a democracy.
Ooh. Okay.
That's the difference. Nobody seems to know the difference between democracy and republic. This is when it shifted. Does that logically make sense?
So far, okay.
Okay.
When the South didn't show up,
sine die kicked in,
and
we convened the three departments as branches under the executive branch, and we have three branches of government now.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
How close to break are we? How are we doing?
Oh, we got what, about 3 minutes?
Okay. So now we're branches of government.
2 minutes.
Now, we have three kinds of jurisdiction in court. We have equity, we have maritime, and we have judicial.
Right.
Now, if you say you have the right to remain silent, what kind of right is that? It's a judicial right, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if it's a contract dispute, it's equity. And if it's a contract dispute, a dispute on the open seas, it's maritime, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, if you put the judicial branch, which is judges, let's say they're still a department, can they have a judicial trial? Yes.
Yeah.
Because they're a separate department. They're not under anybody, right?
Right.
When the power of the president is only maritime. So you put the judiciary underneath the president. Can you have a judicial trial now?
No.
No, you're correct. That's why all these patriots are misguided. They go to court and they're waving these little flags with these little yellow, without the yellow frill, and they're saying we want a trial based on the flag of peace and all that. And the judge is rolling his eyes around. Here's the problem: the yellow frill around the flag represents a court being operated under the power of the executive branch. It's an Army war flag under Bill Clinton.
Or whoever might be in the Oval Office.
Right. Okay. Now, here's the problem. When Abe Lincoln conducted his congressional meetings and his Senate meetings underneath Abe Lincoln, what jurisdiction were they now in? Maritime. Whose power who did they have to answer to? Abe Lincoln. They're no longer separate departments of government. When Harry Reid and the boys meet in Washington, they are underneath. That's why one show you were arguing with me. I said it doesn't matter. They convene under the power of the president.
Yeah. There's
only one department of government now with branches underneath it in a democracy, and Bill Clinton's at the helm.
And then I'm going to hold you. It's 12 before the hour. Lou Epton back with you, along with our guest Dave Hinkson here on the AM 840 KXNT, and we're talking tonight, I think, some very important stuff, and I wish everybody was really more aware of this, because if we were, I don't think we'd be looking at a lot of the problems that we're faced with today. What do you think, Dave?
I think you're right. Before the show's over, I'd like to make a little announcement here. I'm going to cover an argument that I developed for people who are already political prisoners. I thought we would explain it, and maybe it'll help some people that are already behind bars get out.
All right. What do you say we do that right after we do the top of the hour news?
Just remind me, okay?
Okay, we'll open the second hour with something that'll help people that have been political prisoners.
You have a lot of listeners who are in jail that don't belong there.
They got nothing else to do.
And they're listening right now. God bless those people. Yeah. Anyway, you'll find under military court in 4 of the United States Code, it states that the flag with the gold fringe is a military court. That's found under 4 USC. Okay, so it wasn't just some theory I had. All the stuff that we've covered so far is provable. Okay, we're not sitting here just rapidly, wildly throwing out accusations. I've been working for years trying to figure out the big picture here.
I know that. And
I'm closer now than ever, and this is kind of an update for everybody.
Well, I think it's kind of an interesting breakthrough to recognize that when this really started was with our own Civil War, and you never hear that talked about. And, of course, when we look at the presidents that everybody so admires, you got Washington, Lincoln, how many others? But those two were definitely always there, and specifically now with what happened with Lincoln. Do you think he was aware of what he was doing at the time when he did it?
Yes, and I think he was sorry he did it, and I think he wanted to put it back as a republic. I don't want to say too much bad about him because he seems to be an idol of everybody's.
Yeah. Well, so was Roosevelt.
I will say that's why they shot him, in my opinion, was because he, A, was printing greenbacks, and B, he wanted to restore the republic. And, of course, the bankers did not want the republic restored. They want military martial rule.
Why would the bankers want martial rule?
Because you have no constitutional rights.
Well, how does that benefit the bankers?
Because when you have no rights, they can do the things they're doing. They don't have to honor any of the Constitution.
Well, now, wait a minute.
Everything's a front, Lou. They're just pretending that people, all the listeners out here have no rights constitutionally. Because in a maritime court, when you're at sea, they can make you walk the plank. You have no rights. This is why when you go into an IRS court or any other federal court, the guy gets up. I remember that case up in Montana where the IRS killed the guy. He went to court. He had great legal arguments. He went into the federal court, and the judge said, "How do you plead?" And he said, "Well, I don't want to plead. I think you're violating my constitutional rights." And the judge said, "Shut up. You mentioned Jesus or God or the U.S. Constitution one more time in this courtroom, and you're in contempt, and we're going to finish this trial with you behind bars." And the guy stood there dumbfounded. He couldn't believe what he just heard. He stood there couldn't open his mouth, and they had their way with him, and off to prison he went for 8 years, okay?
Well, could that have been just that individual judge who was violating everything that we hold?
The judges go to the secret school in Reno. All the judges in the U.S. go to the secret school in Reno, and according to their level of judgeship, they go to different degrees or levels of understanding of the conspiracy. It is safe to say, and I'm willing to bet my whole reputation on it, that if you're a Supreme Court judge, you're at the top, you know all of it.
But if it's a secret school, how can we know about it?
Well, the school's not secret, but they don't invite anybody else to go in there to learn those secrets of being a judge. And once you get to a high enough position as judge, you're not allowed to go back and practice law. You agree not to.
Judges have gone back into practice. Judges have gone back into practice.
It depends on the level.
Oh, okay.
How high up they were. But the higher you go, the more they don't want you to go back to regular practice.
You know what? I hope we've got some judges listening in tonight.
Well, it's going to get a lot uglier. This story's just warming up here.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Listen, I don't want to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I'm going to for just a moment
Go
before
ahead.
we get too far away, because it's been a long time since we've mentioned this, and I'd like to think we've got a few new listeners out there. But take that dollar bill back out, and you'll find some very interesting things about it.
There's an owl, a little owl.
Yeah, well, that is one, and that's hard to tell people where to look. But it is there, and that's definitely. And
I can tell them where to look. I got $1 here somewhere.
Well, where do you look then, Dave? How would you describe it?
Okay, you go to the upper right-hand corner.
Yeah.
On the front.
On the front of the bill?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And there's a 1 there.
Yeah.
Okay, and there's a crest around the 1.
Okay.
Upper left corner of the crest.
Upper left corner of the crest.
There's a small owl. You have to have a magnifying glass to see it.
I can see it.
But it represents the secret Masonic order of the owls, basically.
Of the owls?
Well, I don't know if that's called the owls, but it's there for a reason. It's a secret symbol. You got any comments about the Albans of India? He says no.
Okay.
But it has to do with that secret. You ever seen that grove where all the presidents meet and they're wearing the Ku Klux Klan robes?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what that owl represents. It's a group. They had a picture, I saw it, with each president, like for, a whole generation of presidents, and they were all wearing their white sheets and their robes.
Yeah.
I think you've seen the picture.
I have.
I know it's a shocking picture, and nobody believes it when they see it, but that has to do with the owl. It's some kind of control over presidencies.
Okay. Now, let's take a look at the eagle. I find it curious that on the left he's got, I believe, 32 feathers, and if you put it under the microscope, you'll find that's
well, 32. 32 is a key.
Let me finish first. And on the right wing, he's got 33 feathers. Dave?
Well, there's a reason for that.
Okay.
In the Masonic order, the British Masonic order, I'll clarify that. Because right now we are a British Masonic country, every inch of us. That's why we have the Fraternal Order of the Police, the Fraternal Order of Firefighters.
And the Masonic papers in the cornerstone of the White House.
Right. Okay. We are a British Masonic country. Now, we started out British. We threw the British out because the Founding Fathers wanted no part of this maritime system.
Right.
We sided with the French. We were good friends and allies with the French. They gave us the Statue of Liberty. The Civil War started. We became a British country again when we became a democracy.
Okay.
The reason the communists have always hated the word democracy is because it's a buzzword for British rule. Anyway, back to the feathers.
Okay.
32 feathers is the highest level that a Mason will normally claim that you can go.
Uh-huh.
George Bush and Rockefeller and Rothschild are 33 or above.
Or above.
That's where the secret society becomes a secret society within a secret society.
And the sadness is that 99% probably of the good people that belong to the Masons don't even know.
Know it exists.
Don't know a thing about what's going on.
Now, see, when George Bush came out during the All-Star game, he had 33 on his jersey when he was president.
Uh-huh.
And I had my father go to the... I didn't have him. He just went to Richard Milhouse Nixon's funeral.
Uh-huh.
And my dad's a very staunch Republican. But he overheard Henry Kissinger at the gravesite say, "Here lies a good Mason." Now, Henry Kissinger is a Mason, and so is Nixon and all the other boys. But this is not a bash the Masons. You were asking about the symbology of what it meant, and I'm just trying to clarify for the people out here that we are a British Masonic country. We are not a French Masonic country.
And there is a difference.
And you'll notice, like Martin Luther King, when they called him a communist, remember?
Yeah.
Okay, he was siding with the French Masons. And if he was murdered, in my opinion, it would have been by the British Masons.
Okay. We've only got a couple of minutes. Why don't we finish it up on the dollar, and then when we come back, we'll pick up where we were, or better yet, we'll have you...
Well, the dollar says Federal Reserve note,
yeah,
for one thing, and a note is not money.
No,
a note means it's owed back. It's borrowed.
Yeah.
Now, when Kennedy tried to print the money, it said United States dollar on it, I think.
Or currency. One or the other.
It wasn't a note, was my point.
Right.
And so the Federal Reserve is a private corporation.
Right.
And they're loaning the money into circulation.
Yeah.
And that's what this dollar is. It's borrowed. It's owed back.
A debt-based monetary system.
The fiat money,
Look
yes.
at that pyramid for just a minute here. We've got the time, which is interesting, and I've never considered the pyramid a symbol of this country, and I've often wondered why it was put on the dollar bill. But when people told me who understood Latin what annuit conceptus nordo ordo seclorum translated to, it all fell into place. Annuit, announcing, conceptus, announcing the conception, Nordo, new...
Of the New World Order, of the order of the world.
Yeah.
Listen, at the base of the pyramid, there's some letters, MC, you've seen them.
Yeah.
When you add up all of those Roman numerals using the Roman numerology, the number comes out to 666.
Most interesting. Stay with...
And now, the talk continues with Lou Epton on the talk station, AM 840 KXNT.
All right, 6 after the hour, Lou Epton back with you here on the AM 840 KXNT. Before we get back to our conversation with Dave Hinkson, I'd like to mention to everyone that tomorrow between 11 and 1 p, it's my pleasure to join in this weekend salute to senior Dave Hinkson. Tonight we're talking something I consider, and I hope you do too, so valuable. It is our Constitution, and there is a move afoot, whether you know it or not. They want to rewrite it. They want to destroy what little we have left. They want to take away a lot more of our rights and turn this into a genuine oligarchy. And you don't have to believe me. That's okay. When it happens, you'll say, boy, I wish I'd have listened a little closer. But and the unfortunate thing is, even those who represent us or who we think are representing us right now in the Congress aren't even aware. You know, everything we're doing supposedly is for the kids and for our own safety and security. It's called crisis creation, my friends. The government, those bureaucratic bums themselves, are creating the problems, and then, of course, they've got all the solutions. If we were more of us aware of how much fraud has been going on, I really, really don't like to think what we'd all be doing right now. In any event, Dave, thanks for waiting. We're back. You wanted me to remind you to bring up a very important issue at the top of the second hour.
Well, I don't think we're ready for it in a discussion. I'm trying to lay some groundwork here.
Let's continue then with what we've got. And those who are calling in, please be patient. We'll get to you.
I want to go back to Abe Lincoln for a second. Okay. Now realize that the citizens of this country were all citizens of the states, like a citizen of the Alabama state, for instance.
Right.
The black people were never citizens because the states, especially the southern states, had never granted them.
Yeah.
Or maybe it was the northern states. I always get confused. But they were never granted state citizenship.
Right.
Now, when Abe Lincoln signed the proclamation to set the black people free, he had to make them citizens of the 10 square miles.
Oh.
You with me?
Okay.
Now, I said earlier that you have no constitutional rights if you are a maritime citizen, because you can't go into a court where you can argue a judicial right.
Okay.
You with me?
Yeah.
And the judge can't go there either because he's under the maritime president.
Yeah.
So the black people were created. They were the first 14th Amendment citizens. Mm-hmm. Now, since they had no judicial rights, they have, at that point, now, if they were born in a state, they would automatically, at this point, have rights. But I'm talking about when they came in as slaves and were brought here, they had no judicial rights.
Yeah.
So since they had no judicial rights, and all the rights they had were maritime rights under a 10-square-mile maritime government, that was called color of law rights. And that's where the word colored came from.
Ooh.
They were called colored because they had no judicial rights, not because they were black people.
Okay.
And all the listeners out there that are U.S. citizens are colored people. And I don't care if they're white or not. They're still colored people.
Okay.
You with me?
Yep.
Now, I know that's a shocker of the century, but it's provable.
Provable how?
Well, we have the proof.
What do you mean we have the proof?
It's in the history books.
Oh, not in the school system, it's not.
Oh, well, I'm sorry about that. But, you know, that's where the word originally came from.
Okay.
And that's
Let's
why it
accept
came
that
to
for
be.
the time being. Okay.
Now, the problem they had is all the citizens of the states had rights, constitutional rights.
Mm-hmm.
And the maritime government could not even enjoin them or couldn't even bring them into court in their venue. So the government had to figure out a way to make all the citizens of the states maritime 10-square-mile citizens.
Yeah.
So they passed an amendment, this is all maritimely done,
Right.
called the 14th Amendment. You got to realize they were all meeting under the power of the president at this point.
Yeah.
So they created this amendment to the Constitution called the 14th Amendment, which basically allowed anybody to become a U.S. citizen. It didn't make you a U.S. citizen, but it just said you had a right to become one. It didn't make you a U.S. citizen, but it just said you had a right to become one. And also, Article 4 of the 14th Amendment states that you can't challenge the debt. See what they're setting up here?
Keep going.
Okay. Well, it's obvious that they're not honoring the Constitution because the Constitution states, for instance, that you can't have money unless it's backed by gold or silver, right?
Oh, okay. Now I'm with you.
But a maritime government, which is not really the real government, can do whatever it wants. And it's not violating the Constitution because those states are not judicial states anymore. In other words, the Nevada Republic or Nevada state could not deal in money unless backed by gold or silver.
Right.
But the state of Nevada, which is a phony federal state illegally created by Abe Lincoln in 1864, can print fiat money, distribute fiat money, and doesn't have to honor any constitutional rights for anybody, anywhere, anytime, or any place.
Okay.
See how ugly this is starting to get?
Yeah, I do.
Now, this is why they created a thing called the birth certificate. The word birth was never a word found in the English language for humans. You're born, you're not birthed. The word birth comes from putting a ship in the harbor under a maritime berth.
True.
And this is where we get into the nom de guerre situation, because if we create a birth certificate for Lou Epton when he's born, and most birth certificates have the last name in all capital letters, and the first two parts of the name were normal.
Yeah.
This is why government applications always have the last name first, because anytime you put your name in a fictitious format, it's a title of nobility. And titles of nobilities are used in maritime courtrooms. You cannot use a judicial name in a maritime courtroom. It's the wrong venue. If I spelled your name, Lou, first letter capital L, then small letters, middle name capital, I don't know what your middle initial is, but capital,
don't have one.
What is it?
Don't have one.
Okay, but if your middle name had a capital M,
didn't think
the
I was
capital,
worth one.
spell out your full middle name, right? And put your last name, Epton, capital E, small p, spelled out small after that.
Yeah.
That's called a correct appellation. Some people use the word Christian appellation, but that doesn't matter. You can be Muslim or Jewish or anything else. It's still a judicial appellation.
Okay.
Now, for those who doubt what I'm saying, you go to Corpus Juris Secundum and look up two words. Mort Main. M-O-R-T-E-M-A-I-N-E.
Where do you find this? What did you call it?
Mort
No, before that. Corpus
Juris Secundum.
Okay.
Those are law books. They're the standard law
Thank
books.
you. Okay, didn't know.
Okay?
Right.
So they have to put your name in a fictitious name to bring you into maritime jurisdiction. And you've heard people talk about different aspects of this story, not quite understanding how it fits into the big picture.
Yeah.
We had one guy call in last time we did a talk show stating that he was in charge of paperwork for the, I think it was the Marine Corps or Army, and he said he was always instructed to make the last name in all capitals.
Yeah.
There was also a guy that was going to prison, and he got up and said he wanted to read the indictment, and he stated that it was not me on the paperwork. He protested, that's not my name. The judge, remember, he corrected the name?
Yeah.
And they got back a week later?
Yeah.
And they had AKA in front of his correct name, and he said, I protest again, that's not also known as. My correct name is, and the judge says, what do we do about this case of mistaken identity? And the judge dismissed it. The prosecutor leaped up screaming. The judge said, "Be quiet. We'll talk about it later." And the guy walked away from a 20-year prison sentence.
Just like that. I'm going to hold you there for a couple of moments.
Go ahead.
Stay with us, everyone. All right, we've got 18 after the hour of 9 p.m. this Friday. My name is Lou Epton, along with our guest, Dave Hinkson, here on the AM 840 KXNT. We've got a full board, a few more minutes, and you bet we'll take your calls. In the meantime, Dave, you want to keep going on this a little further, and then we'll take and see what the listeners...
Yes, we'll take some calls pretty quick here. I would like to make up, after hearing this story, it's obvious that all the listeners out there have two identities.
And there are two states of every state.
There are 2 states, sometimes 3. There's actually 3 Californias, I think.
Oh, really? I know the Republic
There's a California state, California Republic, and state of California. There's also 2 Supreme Courts. See, when they created the phony everything, okay, they created, like, this, let me give you both Supreme Courts, or both district courts.
Okay.
There's a United States District Court, and there's a District Court of the United States of America. Which one's the correct one?
United States District Court?
The District Court of the United States of America is the correct way of saying it.
The District Court
of the United States of America. The word "of" denotes ownership, okay?
Oh,
now,
okay.
There's 2 Supreme Courts. There's a Supreme Court of the United States, and there's a United States Supreme Court. And if you put Supreme Court of the United States, the S and C are small, as in the Constitution. Supreme Court is not spelt with a capital S.
Ooh. Interesting. Let me ask you a quick question. If Lincoln would have liked to have gotten back to the original republic, what would he have had to do? What would a person...
Just reconvene Congress.
Yeah. And?
As a republic.
Well, now, wait a moment. They're reconvened today under the direction of a president.
But they're under martial law, and they've never canceled the emergency powers. That's why they created that emergency powers.
Well, what would be the difference, then, in calling for a reconvening of the Congress?
They need to reconvene Congress as a department. That's all it would take. And that would move all the states back to judicial. That's why I can give people clues. If you look up in the Corpus Juris Secundum or the Words and Phrases books in the library, under the word de facto and de jure, those are the 2 key words.
Yeah.
You'll find de jure is a legitimate government created as a republic, okay?
Yeah.
De facto is a military war government that has seized power by force of arms. It's right there in the definitions, and we have a de facto government, and there's over 23 Supreme Court rulings that state that if a judicial government is in place, maritime government or de facto government ceases to exist.
And we could do it.
It only takes, well, that's where I'm heading next with this, okay? If I said to you, I am a citizen of Nevada State, okay? That jurisdiction still exists. You can't cancel it. It's still there. There's nobody there but me now, right? I made my declaration. I'm the only one in it.
Okay.
It's like going into a big empty building. Can a maritime government go into that big empty building in their maritime jurisdiction and tell me I'm not judicial? Can't enter that venue. I am not a citizen of the United States of America. I denounce it right here on the air. I am not a 14th Amendment citizen. I'm a judicial citizen. I was born and raised in California. I am a native. I am a Native American. I'm not Indian, but I am a Native American. I was born on this soil. I have a judicial birthright. And I was born on the American continent, which makes me an American. I am a Native American and a citizen of the California Republic.
Okay.
You see how this is working here?
Yeah, I do.
Now, seeing how there's 2 Lou Eptons, okay?
Okay.
There's the dead Lou Epton with the fictitious name, and there's a Lou Epton judicially that has rights under God. And the judicial rights, that's why we were a nation of God, was because all men are created equal, the Declaration reads.
Yeah.
And where is the right that all men are created equal found? It's found judicially in the Bill of Rights. And when you go into a maritime courtroom, you have no Bill of Rights. You're not a judicial citizen. And they can do whatever they want to you. When the judge sits up there on his pulpit, okay, wearing his black Masonic robes, okay, and he is sitting behind the bar. The word bar comes when the rivers hit the ocean, there's a sandbar. Law from the sandbar to sea is maritime. Law from the bar inward is judicial. Now, he's sitting with his military flag behind the bar, and he's on the deck of a ship. That's why that rail is there. It's the deck of a ship. That's what it represents. Now, the people in the courtroom are sitting in the peanut gallery, right?
Okay.
And in that peanut gallery, what flag are they under? Well, the flag on top of the courthouse is judicial. You with me?
Okay.
So their human being, breathing bodies are actually judicial sitting there, and the judge is maritimely up there, and he collars across the bar, and he says, you all have the right to remain silent. You all have this right and that right and this right, and he tells you about all your judicial rights, right?
Uh-huh.
Then he says, Lou Epton. Well, the name on the indictment is all capitalized, and it's a dead fictitious name, and he's standing there next to his military flag, and you stand up and you say, yo-ho. And he says, come forward, Mr. Epton. And you come forward, and you just enjoined. Do you have any rights at that point?
Not when I go forward.
Now, we had a guy that heard the Right Way Law story, and he went to court, and he refused to cross the bar, and he was found in contempt, and they dragged him physically across the bar. Okay?
Yeah.
I had discovered the Seventh Amendment, not knowing what it meant, and when I went to court, my approach was slightly different. Let me back up a second. I said there was two Lou Eptons, right?
Yeah.
Who owns the checking account? The dead Lou Epton.
That's right.
Who owns your car?
The dead Lou Epton. That's right.
Who owns your car?
The dead Lou Epton.
Who owns your boat?
If I had one.
The dead Lou Epton.
Same one.
Now, when IRS comes to seize your boat,
flowers.
how can you say you have constitutional rights when the dead Lou Epton owns the boat? They're just seizing the boat under what's called mark and appraisals.
Huh.
That's under military law. It means you can seize objects from people during time of war.
Right.
It was mark and something. I don't think it was appraisals. Was it mark and appraisals? Mark and something. Well, it's found under mark in the rules of words and phrases. The story gets so big, it's hard for me to remember every word.
I understand.
But anyway, here's the point I'm trying to make in this whole scenario is the Patriots are going to court with all these great arguments, but they've already granted jurisdiction when they got up and said, that's me. And all their assets are owned by the dead person, and therefore they have not a leg to stand on, and all their arguments are mute. And that's why the judges in the past have said you can't mention the Constitution in this courtroom, or that's a political issue, take it up elsewhere, shut up, be quiet, you're guilty. You see what I'm getting at here?
Yeah, I sure do.
Now,
I sure do.
What's the Seventh Amendment do? I'm the IRS agent. I'm coming to seize Lou Epton's boat. I just seized your boat. Does your boat have a birthright? No. Does your boat have a judicial right? No. Does the Lou Epton who's dead have a right to keep that boat? No. Now read the words of the Seventh Amendment. In any controversy which shall exceed $20, the right of a common law jury shall be preserved. I just baptized your boat a judicial Christian, did I not?
I think so.
Does your boat have rights now?
Yeah.
Now what happens if the judge does not want to honor the constitutional rights for the boat? He's violated the Seventh Amendment.
Correct.
Now, Four Cans versus United States. I'm going to repeat that. Four Cans versus United States. In the year 1912, the FDA seized adulterated foods from a company called Four Cans.
Yeah.
Supreme Court ruled that it was a violation of the Seventh Amendment for the FDA to have seized adulterated foods because it violated the Seventh Amendment because it was a controversy which exceeded $20.
Okay.
Now, if I say to you the federal government has jurisdiction to regulate commerce, that means they can do anything they want, right, in commerce?
Yeah, in commerce.
Now, let me add to the question. If I say, Lou, you're the federal government, you can regulate commerce, but anything that exceeds $20, you can't touch it unless you have an injured party and a judicial trial with 12 jurors. What did I just do to you?
You've made it judicial.
I just potty trained a Fed, didn't I?
You sure did.
All you need now is a newspaper. You put the nose down and you start slamming the newspaper. They need to be potty trained. They need to know where they belong, and they need to go back there.
Well, I think what we need is for millions more of us to know this.
So, what are you going to do, Lou, when they drag you across the bar and you grant jurisdiction? What's the proper procedure when you're standing in the satanic side of the bar?
To invoke my Seventh Amendment rights.
Here's the key buzzwords. I hereby evoke the Seventh Amendment. I demand a jury trial based on judicial law as preserved by the Seventh Amendment. as a fiduciary of this court, you now have knowledge, and therefore I can prove with full intent you're violating my civil rights pursuant to your contract and oath of office as guaranteed under your contract, military contract of the 14th Amendment. Any fiduciary officer who witnesses a civil rights crime, see, I'm not a 14th Amendment citizen, but the judge is.
I understand.
Okay? Any fiduciary officer who violates his oath of office by witnessing a civil rights crime gets mandatory 10 years in prison. That's the Rodney King versus Ventura case, is it not?
It sure is.
Now, every time a judge meets in Las Vegas and has a jury trial and doesn't preserve the 7th Amendment, isn't he committing a civil rights crime?
You bet.
Isn't he violating his oath unto his God of office?
Absolutely.
So what's that make them? Guilty.
Guilty.
Now, let's define the constitutional word for the word treason. The word treason is defined as giving aid and comfort to the enemy.
Yeah.
The definition of enemy now. The definition of enemy is anybody who would subvert the Constitution. Have they subverted the Constitution?
You bet.
Is that an enemy government that has seized power illegally?
Yep.
What's that make every judge who's sitting behind the bench guilty of? Treason.
Treason.
What's the penalty for treason
10 years.
after jury trial?
10 years.
No, death by hanging.
Oh, wait a moment. Wait a moment. Death by hanging?
Yes, sir. Are we getting ugly enough yet?
I think so, Dave.
Now we're going to move into the surprise. You ready?
Real quickly. You got 30 seconds to surprise me.
Well, let's wait for after the break then, because after the surprise we can take some calls.
Okay.
I wanted to discuss how to get people out of prison.
Okay.
Any other comments you'd like to make for 30 seconds?
Yeah, my name is Lou Epton. Your name is Dave Hinkson. We're together on the AM 840, known as KXNT, coming to you out of Las Vegas, Nevada, covering 9 western wonderful states. Well, times 2 would be 18. Never mind that. KXNT tonight is Constitution and a whole lot more. And I'll tell you this, it's opened my eyes to a lot of things. And Dave, I must compliment you. You put this in such a sequence. Even I, okay?
Even you understood it this time.
Understood it this time. Now, you got a little bit more to go, and I want to thank those who have been so patient on the phone. Stand by, because we got just a little bit more, and then we'll take your calls, get your comments, and answer your questions. Go for it, Dave.
Okay. I want to talk about the Miranda ruling just for a minute.
Okay.
Okay. You have the right to remain silent, right?
Yeah, right.
Any right you've heard the Miranda. We all about have it memorized. We watch the cop movies and this kind of thing.
Yeah.
In the Miranda case, that was a Miranda versus Arizona, the Supreme Court ruled that any right that's an involved right, that means a right that's guaranteed,
Yeah.
has to be preserved, and the only way to preserve it is to give notification.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say and do can and will be used against you in a court of law.
Right.
If you choose to waive that right. You see how this is working?
Uh-huh.
Now, these people that are in jail right now, what kind of trial did they get?
Maritime.
Thank you. What kind of trial were they supposed to get?
Judicial.
How do we tell the difference? Who does the sentencing?
The judge.
Judicial
The judge
trial?
does the sentence. Well, now, wait a moment. There are those instances where the jury actually does it, depending on the severity of the case.
I understand that, but who does most of the sentencing?
The judge.
That's proof that it's a maritime trial. Because in a judicial trial, the jury always does all of the sentencing.
Always.
Always.
Interesting.
Okay? Now, the 7th Amendment says it shall be preserved. Any controversy which exceeds $20, right of a common law jury, shall be preserved.
Right.
Now, maybe there wasn't a $20 controversy, maybe there was. But be aware, you're always guaranteed a common law trial, period. You're always guaranteed that. It was guaranteed in the Articles of Confederation, which are still valid.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
The only reason the 7th Amendment was written was to make sure that when they created the feds, they didn't come out of their 10-square-mile playpen.
Right.
They weren't supposed to come play with us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Boy, have
So,
they run
if it shall be preserved, and I guarantee there's not a person in jail that didn't have something more of $20 of value in his case anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But if it shall be preserved, using the Miranda decision, shouldn't there have been proper notification? How about this? Lou, you have a right to a 7th Amendment common law trial. If you choose to waive this right, we're going to maritime your ass. You will lose all your rights.
Makes sense.
And we're going to put you and your fictitious name in prison where you belong. Now, how do you choose to rule? You see what I'm getting at?
I sure do.
The Constitution also says, Lou, that, right, it also states that you shall have cause, nature and cause are the two key words that you're entitled to when under any kind of trial, right?
Yeah.
The word nature means what venue are we under?
Oh, boy.
So if I was going to court today, I'm not afraid of the bar. I'll walk up, and the judge is going to say, how do you plead? And I'm going to say, well, what's the nature, Your Honor? What's the nature, Your Honor? He's not going to want to answer. Well, it's apparent you don't want to answer that point, Your Honor. I'd like to know, is this a judicial trial or a maritime-type trial? No comment, huh? I evoke the 7th Amendment of the United States Constitution, Your Honor. Do you know how many times I've been thrown out of court? Usually the arm comes up with the robe hanging on it. Get the hell out of my courtroom. Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Oh, boy.
You've heard the stories.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell one quick story about the 4 people who were thrown in prison for assaulting highway patrol.
Okay.
And this is a true story, and you know the guy.
Uh-huh.
Okay?
Uh-huh.
Now, he sassed the highway patrol. The highway patrol dragged him out of the car and beat him up, right?
Right.
His wife thought they were going to kill her husband. She got out. She jumped on the back of the cop. He beat her. 2 teenage sons got out, wanted to save their mother. How did it end up? We had 4 people on the ground, badly beaten and bruised, right?
Right.
Okay, more cops showed up, more beatings. All 4 ended up in the Hooskow, charged with assaulting officers, right? 6 months mandatory jail time,
Yeah.
$6,000 in bail and fines, right?
Right.
When they came to me and asked me what I thought, I said, well, I'd ask for a jury trial based on judicial law. They pleaded the 7th. The prosecutor says, you'll get your jury trial. And the grandfather said, goody, 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 and he headed for the door.
Yeah.
Prosecutor said, hold it, wait, we can resolve this now. All bluff, okay?
Uh-huh.
He says, how about we call it a parking ticket? You pay $50 for the court costs. I release the 4 people from jail. We drop the $6,000 bail requirement. We drop all charges, and you take your family home today. How would you like that?
Yeah.
And the guy says, well, it still exceeds $20. And the guy says, well, it still exceeds $20. He calls me up. He says, what should I do? I says, give him the $50.
Get the hell out of there.
Get out of there. My goodness. But anyway, the point is, I think you're getting the point here.
I got it.
The point is, our government is a illegal, wrongfully created government, and everything. See, if you look at the 13th Amendment, it says that there shall be no involuntary servitude.
Uh-huh.
There is voluntary servitude.
Yeah.
All you people out there have no rights. Every time you put down that I am a U.S. citizen, okay, you are now maritime, and the amendments to the Constitution and the Constitution no longer pertain to you. And you are all colored people. And I'm not throwing any attack against black people, because they can be judicial citizens. Anybody can be a judicial citizen by just understanding who he really is.
Yeah.
And the Founding Fathers absolutely wanted no part of this maritime situation. And if you heard my words earlier as to why they passed the 7th, and how there never was a 10 square miles originally, and why they needed the maritime law, then you'll understand why there was a civil war. It was not to free the blacks. It was to make slaves of everybody.
Okay. Just one quick question, and we'll take some calls.
Go ahead.
That first question you asked the judge, what kind of a venue? What is
nature.
What is the nature?
Of the case.
Of the case.
That means venue.
Okay. What is the nature of the case? And then you go for your 7th Amendment.
Well, wait for his answer.
Well, obviously.
But just because you've crossed the bar does not mean you've granted jurisdiction. If you ask for a 7th while standing on the maritime side of the bar, maritime has to stop. The floor will open up, and he shall preserve it, or he's committing a civil rights crime pursuant to his U.S. citizenship, and he will get mandatory 10 years in prison.
I love it. Boy, I hope we've got a judge or an attorney or people involved.
The word attorney, by the way, means to attorn, and if you look up the definition of attorn, it is to move venues.
Okay, let's take a call from Lawrence over in Sierra Madre, California. What do you say, Dave?
Hey, how you doing, Dave? Being we're on the name, you're not talking to Lawrence, you're not talking to a fiction, you're talking to Lawrence Dean O'Brien.
Thank you.
Okay, now, the nature of the name. Now, when they call your name and you're responding, you're not responding to you, you're responding to the name.
That's true.
Now, if you ask the question, is that a fictitious name, or is that a legal fiction?
You could ask that question.
All right, then, what is a legal fiction? Something known to be false but is assumed to be true?
They work on a lot of assumptions, don't they?
Yeah. So you have to give them joinder. Now, if you give them joinder on your name, you're admitting that you're a fiction. Now, isn't a fiction a lie?
Well, it's a title of nobility.
Well, it's still a lie, right?
Correct.
A legal fiction.
It's not really you.
So you're bearing false witness against yourself.
Well, they want you to, don't they?
Yes, they do. So what you do there, because of our ignorance, is we bear false witness against ourselves.
And
not only do we violate the law, we violate God's law.
Right. That is true.
Okay.
I wasn't really going to get into the God thing, but yes, it's actually a violation. See, I discovered God by finding His law.
Right.
Once I discovered His law, then I knew there was a Satan because I found His law.
Right, because it's all a legal fiction. Okay, so we have to be a false witness against ourselves. So there we are, compelling ourselves to bear witness against ourselves.
Did you hear what Clarence said, or Clarence Thomas?
Go ahead.
His famous little quote there. All the people in prison elected to be there.
Right, and so have several other Supreme Court justices.
He was more true than most people realize.
Yeah, they chose to eat the apple, and they chose to be stupid.
Correct.
Okay. Now, if we don't agree that we're the name, let's say you could do another thing. They call your name. They say, Dave Hinkson.
Mm-hmm.
You say, and you walk up to the bench and say, I am Dave Hinkson, rather than say, yep, that's my name. I don't have a name. I'm a people. How can I have a fictitious entity?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it blows them out right there at the beginning.
This is why we covered the 7th, is because, see, let's say they trick you into their venue.
So that's what they try to do every time.
They always try that, yeah. But if you reserve the 7th, just in case that you know they've snagged you, and then evoke the 7th, you unsnag yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't usually mention the 7th initially. I'll stand there and have a friendly conversation, you know, like you're saying. What's the nature? Will you fix my name? I notice my name is not right on the indictment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have a lot of things we can talk about. And then when the judge thinks he's finally got you snagged,
mm-hmm.
and maybe you screwed up, that's the moment to evoke the 7th. But you have to understand all this to know when you've screwed up. If you don't understand what we're talking about here, you'll never know when you screwed up.
But if you stay on the name, you can win on that alone.
Yes,
I
that's
called
true.
up IRS 2 days ago.
Yes, sir.
They're sending me letters. They got this all-capitalized Lawrence O'Brien guy, whoever the heck he is.
I've never met him. Have you?
No, I haven't either. And I asked him, you know, I got to the problems resolution officer after I got hung up on everything, and everybody admitted that if I don't have a Social Security number, I don't have to pay a tax.
Were you ever assigned a Social Security number?
Never was assigned.
Okay, that's the correct answer because under penalty of perjury in front of Almighty God, I've never been assigned a Social Security number. My living person never had one. Now, this dead guy, David Hinkson, he had one.
Neither can I testify that I've had a birth date because I was too young to remember.
Actually, you were never birthed.
That's
the
true.
living room was not a maritime birth. You were born, not birth.
I can't even remember when I was born because that would be perjury too.
I remember, but I remember I cried like a baby. Something was wrong.
If you remember, Lou, boy, I tell you what, you got a memory better than anybody else I know. My mommy's not around to tell me, so I can't remember.
Okay.
All right.
Any other things you want to make, caller?
Yeah. When I told IRS, I said, listen, you're sending bills to this guy named Lawrence O'Brien. Or I said, you're sending bills here, and it's not for me. He says, what name is on it? I said, Lawrence O'Brien. He said, what's your name? Lawrence Dean O'Brien. He said, how do you know it's not you? I said, look up fictitious name in Black's Law Dictionary.
Use the word name.
Oh, wait. What did he say? What did he say?
Well, the bottom line was, if I didn't have a Social Security number, they couldn't help me. They wouldn't answer any of the questions,
Is that what you call it, being helped?
Hey, guys, I got to thank you, Lawrence. Both of you. Dave, hold on. Oh, boy, what a night. My name is Lou Epton, one or the other. Our guest this evening is Dave Hinkson. My name is Lou Epton. It's 12 before the hour. Back on the AM 840 KXNT, along with our guest, Dave Hinkson. We've got a full board. Dave, if it's okay, we'll take some more calls. Let's see what Joe has on his mind here in Las Vegas. Joe, good evening. You're on KXNT, and thanks for waiting.
Yeah, thanks, Lou and Dave. Just one real quick question back to the dollar bill. On the back of the bill, in the circle where the pyramid is and the eye, the Roman numerals, what were the Roman numerals supposed to...
Well, I have it broke down in a book called Scarlet and the Beast, which is available. It's a complete book that covers... the origins of how the Masons have basically made this country a Masonic country since the beginning. and on page, I think it's like 631, it's this 3-set volume books. He breaks down and shows that the letters, when you add them up, make 666.
I see. So the
see, like the D, is it? I can hardly read my dollar here, but it looks like
it's a
MCCCLK. Anyway, you add up each two, and that creates, like, the first two create 600. The second two create 60, and the next two created 6. He had a formula that they were using that showed that it meant 666.
Oh, I see.
Which is the mark of the beast.
Just one more quick question. Is there any other Masonic symbolism? I heard there was an owl involved and some other things. Could you expand on that a little bit, please?
Well, even the eagle itself was the original Babylon symbol, which meant Babylon. And the word illegal comes from the word ill-eagle.
I see.
And this whole nation we call the United States of America is a repeat of Babylon.
The owl, by the way, is on the front of the dollar in the upper right-hand corner alongside of the
leaves there.
The leaves there by the top.
It's the upper left corner of the crest around the 1.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll look up there, and I'll if you have anything to add, I'll listen to it off air. I know your time is precious.
By the way, and this is something I give Doc Marquis a great deal of credit for, believe it or not, and it just blew my mind when he showed it to me, and it's hard to describe on the air. There are 3 satanic symbols built in to the $1 bill. And that's not a mistake. And I can't believe it happened by chance. No other currency anywhere in the world.
Well, Lou, just to highlight, this is how you've heard people say for years, you have no rights when it comes to the IRS.
Yeah.
Well, this is why. You file your tax return, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you put on there, I am a U.S. citizen.
Okay.
Now, what kind of rights do you have now?
Not too many. Look,
none, zip, zero. I mean, come on, you're toast.
Okay.
Now you go to court and you say, I have rights. Shut up.
Okay. Tony here in town. Good evening. Thanks for waiting. You're on KXNT.
Hey, Lou.
Yeah.
Hey, Dave. How's it going?
Good.
Pretty good, guy.
Hey, man, that was, you sound kind of technical, but really, it sounds pretty easy. You just ask what the nature of the case is, and then you ask, if he doesn't answer you there, you ask if it's a maritime or judicial, and then if they beat around the bush there, then you
ask for
invoke the 7th.
Right.
Cool.
Because see, what happens is when they go to seize your boat or your automobile or your checking account under maritime law, even if you could prove that you had rights, your checkbook's in the dead name and it has no rights.
Yeah. So it's actually a pretty simple process.
Well, yeah, it is. I want to ask you a question while I'm thinking about things. Listen to this question. I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
If it took an amendment to the United States Constitution to make alcohol illegal, and it took an amendment to the Constitution to make alcohol legal, thus canceling prohibition, how'd they cancel marijuana?
An amendment?
No. There was no amendment.
There was no amendment.
No.
So it's just total
They used maritime law. They made everybody a U.S. citizen where you had no rights, and they've proceeded. Now, the thing that, caller, that's most interesting about this whole story is even though they put all this in place during the Civil War, or after the Civil War, okay?
Yeah.
They never really they never really brought it all into play all at once.
Yeah.
They pretended we had judicial rights, and they slowly brought this monster out of the closet. For instance, the word statute means maritime law. Did you know that?
Yeah. Hey, hold on, Dave. Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
I had to say this to Lou because I saw this because I believe everything you're saying, Dave. Really, I understand it, and it's I think Bill Greitz even talks about stuff like that, doesn't he?
Well, we're trying to cover the whole story tonight, where people could finally understand, because a lot of people are getting in trouble. They got half the story, and they're going to court, and they're getting in a lot of trouble.
What does he want to say, Tony?
Yeah, I just want to say I saw that speech of Clinton's, and the guy. The commander-in-chief looks like he's sporting a couple of nervous breakdowns. I mean, the guy looks like he's going to drop dead.
Well,
really, the guy is pacier than a block of cocaine. I mean,
hear that.
These Democrats keep saying 2 words to describe what they feel is a loved president.
Yeah.
And they don't have anything to back it up. The guy looks like feces warmed over. I mean, also, if you look at him from the side, it looks like he's carrying one of those astronaut crappers.
Let me just add, Tony, they're closing in on him. He's not comfortable. He's very nervous.
Oh, he
You're
is.
not reading it
really,
in the paper.
I mean, yeah, he either took a gargantuan...
guys, I mean, they're telling him what he has to do.
Yeah, but he's getting nervous.
He either took...
a puppet.
If you saw him from the side view, he either took a gargantuan dump in his pants or he's wearing a leak-proof sphincter protector with a crop vacuum.
Thanks, Tony. Got to move along. We've got Bob.
Can I make a comment real quick?
Real quick.
He kind of prompted my thoughts there.
Real quick, Dave.
Okay,
we got a long distance.
before the things changed here, the law books were called the statutes at large.
Yeah.
Now, in 1954, most of the states developed what they called revised statutes.
Yeah.
Now, the word statute means maritime. A statute at large is judicial.
Okay.
You with me?
I'm with you.
So how come all the states in the 50s changed to a revised, like we have the Nevada revised statutes,
Yeah.
there's the California revised statutes, there's the Arizona
I think you
revised
said it well.
statutes.
They've been stealing it slow but sure, and
But
now
if the definition,
hammer
Lou,
is
of
coming
statute
down.
is maritime,
Yeah.
they shifted all of our laws to strictly maritime, and that actually went into place in the early 50s.
And we didn't do a damn thing.
Well, we didn't know.
Well,
They already had it in place, but they put it in place, but they slowly have been shifting the country to 100% maritime. Guess what happens when the country becomes 100% maritime, Lou?
You tell me.
Nazi Germany. This is the Nazi Germany Adolf Hitler story that I am giving you. If you study Germany,
Yeah.
and the history of Germany,
Yeah.
you will find that everything that I gave in this story happened in Germany over 40 years.
Oh, boy. Let's go to Twin Falls, Idaho. Bob's waiting up there. Bob, good evening. Thanks for your patience. You're on KXNT with Dave Hinkson.
Hey, excellent show tonight, guys.
Thank you.
Got a question.
Yeah.
You touched on it. You just started to get into it, and you faded out up here, and I don't know if you went into it any further on where we have this dual states and dual legislative districts, whatever, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering, you said it's like walking into a big building, you know, and you're the only one there. Well,
I was
of course
referring to the judicial government, which is still in place, but there's nobody in it.
Yeah.
Now, see, a lot of
If we
patriots...
could get enough people, though, I mean, what, 12 people to hold a quorum and elect our own representative?
That's all it takes. And I'll make a comment on that. See, a lot of people were going around saying you have to denounce your U.S. citizenship and fix who you are, and then we can create a Republican form of government again. Okay, the dead David Hinkson is registered to vote in Clark County, right?
Mm-hmm.
The dead David Hinkson voted. Okay, they always put your name in a fictitious name when you go to register to vote. The judicial David Hinkson has never voted, never been married, never had a Social Security card, never been birthed.
Uh-huh.
You see what I'm getting at here?
Yeah.
So, can there be two entities? Well, yes. You could set up a judicial government as long as you understand the difference and use your name correctly, and you could have two elections, one for the phony maritime, where you could say run for governor. Let's say you ran for governor of the state of whatever state you're in, right?
Idaho.
Okay, you're in Idaho. I'm just getting ready to move to Idaho. But let's say you run for governor, but 12 of you guys also go through the proper procedure to create a judicial government, and you run for governor in the judicial election, and you advertise and offer, a school where you show people how to create this correct government. You see what I'm getting at?
Yes.
And let's say under the maritime election, you don't make governor. But under the judicial governor, your 12 friends all vote you in.
Yes.
Okay? Who's the governor?
Well, I would, but they're not going to recognize it.
Well,
that's the
I
next
have
step.
23
How do we
Supreme
make them?
Court rulings, caller, that state that anytime a de jure person or a de jure government is in place, the de facto one falls. Now, it's a controversy which exceeds $20 as to who gets the governor's mansion. You with me?
Yeah.
Now,
Okay.
They're going to say, well, you don't win. You just said that. They're going to rule against you. They're not going to recognize it, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Does a maritime court have the right to hear a judicial argument?
No.
Okay. Do they have venue to even hear the case?
No.
Who has original jurisdiction?
Common law courts.
And who's the only common law court left in the country?
My 12 people that are going to be sitting on the jury.
Thank you. Also, the Supreme Court, if you activate it with a small s and small c, the Supreme Court of the United States has original jurisdiction.
I hope you get up here before the next election because we'll draft you for...
What county are you in?
We're here in Twin Falls County.
Oh.
So.
Okay, Bob, thanks so much. Dave, hold on. We're going to have to break away. KXNT, along with our guest, Dave Hinkson. Tonight we're talking, I don't know how I would describe it. I guess I would call it the real government. And there's a way of getting it. And there's a way of getting it. And by God, we've got to get busy and do it. Dave, you ready? We got a full board from all over the area.
Yeah, I'd like to make a couple quick comments real quick.
Okay.
For one thing, there was a big debacle here about the public lands in Nye County. Do you remember that?
Oh, and how?
Now, The Constitution says original jurisdiction shall be with the Supreme Court if there's a controversy between government agencies, okay?
Yeah.
A federal court in Las Vegas ruled that the public lands belonged to the feds and didn't back it with any viable supportive arguments. They just sort of blanketly ruled that way.
Yeah.
It wasn't their jurisdiction. The jurisdiction is a judicial jurisdiction was supposed to hear that argument.
Yeah.
Since they dragged it into the maritime venue, what's that decision? Who owns the public lands? Now, I can prove the public lands belong to the de jure states and the de jure counties. It ain't an opinion. I can prove it.
I hear
and
you.
We could talk about that for 20 minutes, but you probably don't want to get into the public lands issue.
We'll schedule you back real quickly, and I'd love to, because this is a story that people have got to become aware of, if they're not already. We've had 2 sagebrush rebellions.
I started the second one.
I know you did.
And I didn't sell out either.
Huh?
And I never sold out.
No, and you're one of the very few that didn't. But Frankie Sue did.
Well, and so did somebody else. I don't want to mention his name. But anyway, listen, in case the listeners are wondering, I'm that guy from Idaho. I'm going to be in Idaho County.
I understand. Well, not until you straighten things out here in Nevada.
Oh, thank you, Lou.
We're not going to let you go.
To be exact, I'll be in the Grangeville area.
Oh, well, we got another caller from well, okay, let's take Ontario.
You can call me after June. I'll be up there.
Okay. Not if I can.
Not
James,
if you can help it.
Right. James over in Ontario, California. Thanks for waiting. Good evening. You're on KXNT with Dave Hinkson.
Yeah, he's going to be a Granger now.
Thanks a lot. Is that what it called?
Anyway, yeah, I was listening to your program tonight, and David, you're right on the mark, and it's null and void as far as that decision, and I'm glad you said landed patents instead of otherwise, clouded title. And, yes, I go to the Judicial Society meetings all the time.
That's where people should start to learn how to create the correct government. I encourage people to get involved with the societies you're talking about.
I gave Lou some stuff the other day that I think you ought to see, some cases.
Oh, good.
That will take care of the cities.
Well, if he ever gets back to town, I'll show it to him.
What was that movie star that was working with the societies down there?
Pardon me?
Oh, I know who you mean.
Yeah, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, Judicial Society in the Granada Forum.
Yeah, but he was out of California. He was the biker in any which way but loose with Clint Eastwood.
Yeah. It's John Quaid.
Thank you.
He's got a good program. Are you working with him?
No, but I've talked to him a couple times personally.
He's a very sincere guy, and he's really working hard. We need to get together and form these societies and create the de jure government. And once we have half a dozen of these governments and counties in place, we stand as one, and we need to go to the correct Supreme Court, and we need to take back our government.
Yeah, I was telling Lou the other day I'm just about ready to file some motions and some writs on this judge that's got this buddy of mine in his municipal court on a so-called infraction from the city, no permit operating business.
Well, call the Ventura County Courthouse and order a copy of the Ventura versus Rodney King case. I think you'll find that's laid out exactly how you need it to sue the judge.
Yeah. Right. That's because he's getting a contract within a couple of weeks. I'm going to send him that.
Okay. Thanks, James.
Okay. And hey, Lou.
Yo.
I will be getting that tape that you guys are putting up tonight.
Okay.
Okay. I will be sending for it, so save one for me.
We'll do it.
Okay.
I'd also like to make the comment, Lou, again. I want to clarify this. A statute is maritime.
A statute is what?
Maritime.
Right.
You cannot bring a statute. Any statute cannot be put into a judicial courtroom.
Yeah.
What does IRS use when they bring you in?
Statutes.
What does the phony state of Nevada use when they bring you in?
Statutes.
So if you plead the 7th, what statute can they use?
None.
Boy, and there has to be a victim.
That's right.
And there has to be a 12-man jury to decide whether you need to be penalized or not, right?
That's right.
Well, that pretty well shuts down the illegal government. What we need is for people to understand these things.
That's all.
That's why we're on the air. There's no gain in this for us.
That's for sure. Well, yeah, there is.
Well,
our freedom.
Our freedom, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we're not selling anything here.
Keith over in Los Angeles. Thanks for waiting. Good evening. You're on KXNT with Dave Hinkson.
Hi, Dave. Hi, Lou.
Hi.
I'm in a bit of a predicament. I got a traffic ticket for an expired tab, no seatbelt, and an empty beer can that had been lying in the back of my pickup for a year.
And talk up a little, will you, Keith?
What's that?
Talk up a little bit.
Yeah, I had a traffic ticket.
Okay.
For an expired tab, an open container, which was a beer can in the back of my pickup, been lying there for a year, and then not wearing a seatbelt. But it was weird because I had to unbuckle my seatbelt to get out my wallet to show the cop my license. Anyway, it was like a couple $100, and I just was so PO'd that he wrote on this for not wearing a seatbelt that I just didn't pay it. Now it's gone to warrant. And so what I'm thinking, how can I go down to the courthouse and get this straightened out?
Well, you could go down to the courthouse. My advice to you is to always be very polite, not too argumentative. But sincerely go down there and ask for a hearing. And get one scheduled. Okay. When you get the hearing scheduled, see, my dad went to court in Salt Lake. He was involved in a car pileup where a bunch of cars stopped in front of him. And when he told the judge he wanted a judicial trial based upon the 7th Amendment, you know, he dressed very conservative and he looked very respectable, because he is, you know. Yeah. The judge didn't know what he was talking about, and what the judge said was, well, I'm going to do some checking on that, and, you know, this is his response at the time. And next time they came, you know, back to court, what they don't want to admit if you got them cornered. What they'll do is find some excuse to dismiss it.
Yeah.
But see, the problem is you're driving around maritimely on a river of tar, and your car belongs to the state of whatever state you're in, because you've got a certificate of title, and the original paperwork is held by the state. When you buy a car, they send the paperwork to the state. And the reason you have to license your car is because you're getting permission to drive state property.
Yeah, I've done all that kind of research. The same two sheriffs pulled me over the next day and harassed me again, so I sold my car. I've been riding my bike ever since. But when they first pulled me over, you know, they started asking me all these questions. And I asked the one cop, I said, well, am I under arrest? And he said, no. And I said, oh, well, I can be on my way then. And he said, well, no. And so the other cop, he went into my cab, my truck, and started searching through it. Well, fortunately for me, I had all this paperwork on sovereign citizenship and Supreme Court stuff and law books and stuff. And he came back out and told his cop buddy that apparently that I had all this. So anyway, they let me, because they said they were going to just take me to jail. I said, well, let's go. Arrest me. If you're going to ask me all these questions, you got to tell me my rights and all that. And I guess that's what scared them.
Well, they're afraid of being sued under Title 42s, you know. The Rodney King versus Ventura case is really a Title 42 case, and it's a pretty good case. But what we're trying to do is get people to, when you go to court, you got to be aware, they're afraid of the 7th, because if anybody makes it an issue, the whole house of cards would fall. Yeah. They can't even stand a clarification of this, okay? Yeah. So what we want to do is gently use it at this point to preserve our freedom while we educate others as to the big picture here. Because once enough people understand that the government has been seized by British forces, which is what's happened here, we are a Queen of England country here.
Make no mistake about it. Okay, I'm going to have to thank Keith and hold you for a couple of moments, Dave, while I remind everyone my name is Lou Epton.